their religion.
UCC,
it bothers me. But some are very
different than UU, but sometimes they do some things in cohort. So yeah, that's the joke, at least in the circles I travel. But Congregationalists are absolutely Christian, and
I to me, this looks like a longest night service. It does not look like a blue Christmas service at all. I can understand it as a longest night service.
I wasn't even thinking about that because it was advertised as a blue Christmas.
But it does not look like a blue Christmas service to me at all. No.
This did nothing for me.
No.
Absolutely nothing.
Service. I think those song choices are odd.
And it was to me. They just I don't know why they added that. It's not right.
But the advertisement didn't even mention longest night. The advertisement in the paper was strictly a blue Christmas service, which is why I went.
Oh, where at?
One of the churches, two churches at home advertised, and only one of them I could make. I would have gone to both. So I dragged my husband, and we went because I wanted to see
what someone else is.
Well, to see what someone else did, and just for a learning, piece. And now that you say that it should have just been the longest night. Now I understand the readings better, but it was a female pastor, and she did a lot of reading off her laptop, and it was too long because it was an hour and a half. But when I didn't feel uplifted, and so and I said to my husband, "What did you think?" And he said, "I think I'm down now, and I wasn't when I got here."
That's really bad.
And I said, "Oh, that's good." He said, "What did you think?" I said, "I think ours was a hell of a lot better." I said, and the other thing I said to Liz, the key was when it was over, everybody jumped up to move and get out, Whereas at ours, downstairs, when we were in the circle, everybody sat. Nobody wanted to get out. Nobody wanted to move.
Wow.
So I thought, that's very interesting. So, and really you have to come out and visit me.
I love this quote.
Yeah, I like that quote though.
Yeah, I like that quote too.
Yeah.
Your husband, guest room, we talked about.
Yeah, and actually relatives on one line as well, who I go and visit as much as possible.
Okay, I have two.
I'm big on things I should have been doing.
You got to get rid of that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Get rid of that word. Terrible word.
I didn't say that.
Terrible word.
You should get rid of it.
Oh no, now we're just mixing metaphors.
Well, yeah, as Catholic,
that's not a word you want to use.
I agree.
My mom sent me an email. This is sort of an email. She likes to go through MSN, I consider junk news, but all those top 10 lists. And one of those things she just sent me was never start an email. An article about she never started an email. Like I was just checking in on fill in the blank.
I have two. My most recent one, and the one I think I sent it to you when you said send one, but I'd already gotten it ready. So the most recent one is from Team. So that might be more interesting. It's different.
Which one of you learned the most? Say you regret it.
Was the Team one more interesting to you? That's right. Oh! Okay.
So here goes.
Just one quick
We can
comment
read this
about there's CBD doesn't typically focus on worship services or preaching or that kind of leadership. But I'm really glad that you guys took the initiative to do the blue service and just thinking big picture, going to another blue service and comparing it.
Yes.
That's all really good. And I want to, even though we don't talk about it as much, I encourage you all to bring those kind of questions or experiences to the CD so that we can sort of talk about that. The preaching, part of, in the back of my mind, part of where I'm coming from is in our programming evaluation that you guys fill out at the end, in this, like, did CD help you with all these different things? And one of the things they mentioned is preaching, worship. So if there's a way that you can incorporate that in the way you want, not just for the programming development, you guys. All right, we went from tiny print to huge print.
Legible. Readable.
Okay, so no, I gave you the wrong one. I gave you the
team
team
one.
one.
Oh,
sorry, that's,
So you really wanted
that
to,
was
maybe
Freudian.
you
You
should
really
have
wanted it.
Freudian.
What are you
Maybe
saying?
there's a
Freudian.
reason.
That was Freudian.
I was just getting into it.
I think there's a
know,
reason
I
for
just
that.
looked at it and said, wait a minute,
We should be doing that.
Guys, could you?
Yeah, I can move.
I'm sorry, I'm
Stand up.
hiding from the fan because it's drying out my eyeballs.
Oh wait, I'm not.
Oh, yeah. Is it cold in here?
Yes.
Yeah,
A little
I
bit.
put my,
Why is the fan going?
I don't know. I was kind of like, man, my
Okay.
eyeballs.
For the record, I've asked it to be 90 degrees in here. Just want to put that out
That's a
there.
little scary.
No,
And
it's
it makes
cold air
And
coming
now it
out.
makes a sound when I put it to cold. So that would.
Are we sure that it's it?
Now I'm putting it at 76.
Is it cold?
It was cold before coming out. Now no air is coming out.
Maybe it's
So it's switching.
turned off. Who knows?
But there's always airflow, I guess.
Yeah, there's some air
Or maybe
flow,
it's
but
just the
cool.
airflow that's
So
Before
drying
it
out my
was
eyeballs.
just to,
cold.
for the sake of seeing if this thing is even on, I'm going to put it back to 90.
Okay, just to see.
We'll see if
So if we all start stripping, we'll know it's working. We'll open the door. And, you know.
Then we can talk about ethical issues.
Yes, there you go. There you go.
Of course, that's all on tape, Gene.
Still out of the picture. I can't figure out.
Okay.
maybe if we
All right.
I
So,
definitely was before.
We can't see you.
There we go.
okay, so this was November 23rd, and was my second verbatim, and it was the waiting area on the floor. It was with a female who was in her 60s. She was a well-dressed woman in a business attire, sitting upright on the chair. She was holding her purse and coat on her lap. Appeared to be in her 60s. I was going to see Mrs. L in a hospice room and met the nurse who was just leaving. She said to give her 5 more minutes for the patient to finish the AM care. But if I wanted to wait, the daughter was sitting alone in the waiting area around the corner. What I knew going in was that this was an 85-year-old woman under hospice care at the hospital who had been here for 14 days already. Her faith was listed as Roman Catholic. I assumed it would be an easy visit because I was also Roman Catholic and had been at many deathbed visits before. Reminded myself to listen, not speak, and that I was not there to fix, but only serve. As I approached the waiting area, Miss L looked up, but did not smile or speak. I introduced myself as the chaplain on duty and that I was there to see her mother. She reiterated what the nurse had said. I asked if I could sit and wait with her, and she nodded yes.
I'll do the.
F is the family.
I'll do the family.
I'll be the chaplain, I guess.
Have you
And
visited?
Eric can be the nurse again.
All right.
Have you visited my mother before?
No, this is my first time. Well, what can you tell me about your mom?
She's ready to go. She hasn't had anything to eat or drink for over a week. One of my brothers was here for 6 days from Dallas, but had to go home. My other brother is taking his wife to rent a car so she can drive home to New Hampshire. Their son is 18, and she wanted to check on him.
Also, my brother has been here so long, he's out of his own medications. So,
And it was a name.
So- name. We'll send some overnight.
Sounds like it's been a long journey waiting for Mom to die.
She shakes her head, yes, and sighs. Long silence.
Do you think Mom is waiting for someone or something before she can leave all of you?
Deep sigh, right hand shaking, covers hand with her coat. No eye contact.
Last week, she told us the train was coming on Thanksgiving and that she had her ticket ready.
How did you feel hearing that?
We all told her that she didn't have to wait for Thanksgiving and she could take an earlier train.
I felt myself. Okay.
Yeah, I felt myself smile at the image of a train. Sounds like everyone is ready for Mom to let go.
Nods yes.
All the arrangements are made. We will send her to PA to be buried, or Pennsylvania, to be buried next to our father, and then this summer have a memorial service there. This is what we did when my dad died 7 years ago.
So I hope my face is not showing my feelings right now.
How does this plan work with Mom's faith practice?
She was going to church every Sunday until she went to assisted living, but I think the priest came there sometime.
Has her priest been here to the hospital?
She was given the last rites, and her priest even told her she was ready to meet God. She was talking to her sister and my father one night when my brother was in the room with her.
You can go in.
The daughter got up without a word and went into the room, which was dark. She went to the far side of the bed and put down her coat and purse without saying a word. I followed the daughter into the room and went to the head of the bed on the opposite side. In the bed was the skeleton of a person, eyes closed, mouth open, only occasional shallow breaths, and her skin cold to my touch.
Mrs. L., my name is Doreen, and I'm one of the chaplains here. Your daughter and I were talking in the waiting room, and I would like to say a prayer for you as you continue your journey home to God. I traced the sign of the cross on her forehead and rested my hand on her head. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, Father, we call on you today to guide Mrs. L. as she leaves this world and her family to take up her life for all eternity with you in heaven. We know that she will be greeted with open arms by her husband, her son, and all her sisters. We thank you, God, for the blessings this woman has received over her 85 years here on earth. We say goodbye in sadness for our loss and enjoy for a peaceful ending to a life well spent. In God's hands, we entrust this soul forever and ever. Amen. Mrs. L., I'm leaving now, but your daughter is here with you. Thank you for the privilege of praying with you this morning. God speed you on your journey home. I looked at her daughter and she nodded to me as I left the bedside.
So, in my analysis, the daughter was distant, with no emotion showing. My feeling was she wanted this to be over and was angry that her mother lasted so long here at the hospital. I felt like she would explode and pushed a little, and it made me feel like I was walking on eggshells. The visit felt longer than what it was, and I was drained from the stressfulness of it. My gut reaction was that the gift of faith that Mom had was not present in the same way for the daughter. The image is angels carrying Mrs. L. upward as the light of God gets stronger and stronger, in contrast to the dark room where I saw the patient. Also, the 23rd Psalm came to mind, and I wanted to say it, but don't remember it word for word. I prayed later in our chapel that this woman's family would find God in their lifetime now that Mom and Dad were gone. I never got to go anywhere deep with the daughter to find out her true feelings or beliefs. I felt like there was a wall and I was outside knocking. No one answered. I was comfortable with the dying mother and left sad that the daughter never spoke or touched her mother. My strength was being Catholic and having been with a dying patient before. My weakness was seeing myself in the daughter. I had left my husband and career to go home and take care of my own mother when she was dying. The doctor said 2 to 3 months max, but it was over 6 months before she passed. At the end, I was resentful and just wanted to scream, die already. Patient died that morning and no opportunities existed, no other opportunities existed. I wondered if the mother, who was a practicing Catholic, was okay with no funeral mass, etc. It seemed to me a very non-religious ending. The documentation was on the chart. Later on my rounds, I passed the room. It was being cleaned. I cried and thanked God for his love of Mrs. L and of me. And I didn't have enough information to do an assessment for the daughter's stuff, faith.
What do you guys see in Jordan's face?
Well, it wasn't an easy visit. It definitely brought up a lot of your stuff.
The visit wasn't hard. It wasn't until I was doing the written that the piece came up when I was thinking about the daughter. I don't know how to put this. Not trying to judge her, but in feeling that, it was, enough already. 14 days is a long time for a hospice patient in the hospital. Especially if they're in a semi-coma. And already a week without any food.
Yeah.
That's a long time. So I understood, but it brought back a horrible memory that I have that I don't like to remember. And it was just at the very end with my mother. And one of my brothers lived in the house. He went to work every day. And towards the end, I was up all night, up all day. Got very, very hard. And after it was over, I regretted that I had ever agreed to be the caretaker. Because when my sister arrived in California, every time she came to visit, my mother was always so thrilled to see her. She was the daughter. And I was the quote-unquote nurse, the aide, Mom, I have to roll you even though it hurts. I have to do this. I have to change you. I have to, change your dressings. I did all the crap stuff. And I thought, I would never do that again. And I have since, especially as a social worker, when I would meet with families, I would always encourage them not to be that sole provider, to have outside people help so that they could keep their role as husband or wife or child or, sibling. Because in the end, it wasn't good. I mean, yes, I took great care of my mother, which is what the surgeon said at her funeral. That the reason she lasted 6 months was that I was a little too good. And, but it wasn't a good thing. And it was a learning experience. And it wasn't until the very end that I started to get totally burnt out. I mean, 6 months of being the primary caretaker of somebody who's bedridden was a long time. I mean, my sister came for a week every once in a while, and my brothers, would sit in the room while I went to take a shower and stuff. But
You didn't get away for weekend when they came to visit.
well, when my sister came, because I went home to be with my husband. But then all I wanted to do was sleep. Type of thing.
I was wondering if you didn't say it here, but I kept wondering if it seemed to me maybe the daughter needed some prayers. Like, I don't know. I probably
Like I said, I felt like there was a wall.
not
She,
in front of her, but I probably would have gone to the chapel and just said a prayer for the whole family, because it's hard when you feel resentment, right? Because sometimes you feel guilty later about it when you're a caretaker, right? I mean, you know that, right? So you know what I mean? Because sometimes it's hard later when they say, "Wow, I wasn't really present for her. I was so resentful that she took so long to die." I don't know.
well, I'm sure it's a hard thing too. I mean, they were sitting, and I don't understand why they wanted the room so dark and know nothing. Because last night I sat with a woman, a hospice patient whose family had gone home, and I sat with her for while, and the room was very beautiful in that on the television it's just a scene of like koi or something in a pond, and they had the speaker on the bed. It was just soft music playing, you know, and there were some lights, you know, on the other side of the room on, you know, but it wasn't a dark, you know, quiet room. It was a very peaceful, like chapel atmosphere, you know, versus this one. The room was dark and cold, and, you know.
Sounds like they're almost putting her in a tomb before.
Yeah, the
she got
coffin.
there.
That's what it sounds
You
like
know,
to me
like
too.
They were really.
Yeah, it just, yeah, and the fact that the daughter did not touch her or say, "Mom, I'm back." I mean, you know. I mean, I did all those things up till the end. I mean, you know, my piece was, you know, in the privacy of the shower when I was crying and screaming, you know, I don't know if I can keep doing this type of thing. You know, I was really physically starting to feel it, but you know, and so I wondered, but only when I was doing verbatim. When I was actually sitting with this woman in the waiting area, none of that came into my mind at all. It was strange how writing the verbatim. And also at some point, and I don't remember where, somewhere in the conversation, when she talked about her brother, she mentioned that she had another brother who died. That's why in my prayer I mentioned the son, but I can't remember where that came in. I just remember that it came in, but I don't remember exactly how. It was just a very, you know, she's ready to go. My father's, you know, my brother, you know. So, you know, because she did talk about, you know, the father, that they had taken him to Pennsylvania, and this is what they were going to do.
I love that you questioned her about that because, you know,
Which point?
about
This
the
is
arrangements.
C6.
Yeah, about the arrangements, because it doesn't sound like a Catholic burial. You know, no funeral service, and
Well, I
I
think
love
that
that you
was
questioned her.
that was my attempt at going a little deeper.
Yeah,
To, you know, to get a feel for, you know, but
Well, I'm wondering. I was gonna ask. I'm wondering what emotions. Like, what were you worried that was going to show on your face?
oh, that I was shocked that there was no mass or anything.
Disapproving.
Well, I hope it wouldn't go that far, but yeah, probably. I mean,
Because that's what I was picturing in my head. Is like
Yeah, well, I
sort of a
mean,
disapproving. Like,
Yeah.
well,
I'm
wait a
hoping,
minute. What
I
are
mean,
you?
I was a therapist for a long time, so I'm hoping that, I mean, I never had a patient ever call me out, but I certainly hope it doesn't show, but I always feel like I do. Yeah, I was just, you know, when she told me the arrangements were all made, we'll send her to Pennsylvania to be buried next, I thought, there was no mention of, you know, a mass or, you know, the memorial would be during the summer. I was like, okay, you know, and in hindsight, I mean, the mother was alive and competent when they did it for the father, so maybe she agreed to it. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that's my own bias in the sense that I see it a lot, even in our own family, although no one's completely gone off the rail yet, but they come close to not having, you know, a full mass, you know, the wake, the mass, the burial, you know. I come from a family where that was a very big and significant event, you know, a command performance, you know, you showed up for the baptism, the marriage, and the funeral. I mean, if you missed any of those, you know, you were in big trouble. You know, you'd better be on your deathbed because there were no excuses. That's how that was our family's, you know. So this was, you know, but when other key was when the daughter said to me she got her last rites. That's a very old term, so that told me that she may be out of contact with the church herself, not in practicing person, which you know is fairly common now, at least where I live. A lot of the elderly people are very connected to the church, and their children aren't, and it's always a struggle when they're like, you know, well, I don't know if I want a mask. I don't know if anybody will come. Well, yes, if it's advertised, the other parishioners will come. We have people who do that. You know, the church is well represented, you know, but they're like, well, I don't know if we need that. Can't you just say a blessing? You know, like, get it over with.
Yeah, this is another example of it can be harder in a way to be a chaplain to folks in your own tradition
Because you know too much.
because you know a lot more, and you do have. In your case, there's it's the word "should" again, right? You have an idea of how it should be and what's wrong with these people, right? I mean that can.
I hope to God it didn't come out that way.
Is that you said that you didn't do very well. Was that the main thing, or what were the things you didn't do well?
I think when I questioned her about whether that worked with mom's faith practice, I felt like I was being judgmental. And it was not intentional to be judgmental. But
Okay, so that's one.
yeah, and well, I think I continued it. You know, my question, you know, and has the priest been called? I mean, I just, I don't know if I did this woman a disservice.
The daughter.
The daughter, no, not the patient.
Yeah, you sound like an advocate for the patient, though.
You know, but at the time, the person I was sitting with was the daughter. It should have been her that my chaplaincy, my hospitality, my
And
serving.
What got in the way of you serving her better?
I don't know. I mean, it was only when I was doing this that I mean, at the time, nothing hit because I hadn't even gone in the room yet, so I hadn't seen the darkness, I hadn't known any of that. I just feel like I missed an opportunity to really focus in on this daughter who was sitting there alone. And I mean, like I said, you know, she's sitting there with her I mean, there's several chairs, there's nobody else there, it's empty, but she's all, her coat, her pocket, everything's on her lap, and her hand did start shaking at that one point, and she put her hand like this. She was very, you know.
Sounded to me like it would have been really hard to reach her, I have a feeling. And in 5 minutes. You know, that's the thing.
Well, yeah, no, I mean.
Right, the nurse came back in 5 minutes
Well,
and said you
no,
can go in.
it was more like we were together, more like 10 minutes,
So a little
5
bit.
minutes in the room, but
She was pretty close, though.
when I did this, and I really felt like I missed an opportunity, you know, and so I guess my question is, how do I not miss an opportunity next time? You know, it's, you know.
Yeah. What comes to mind is, well, the question is it, you're all new to this. One reason you might miss something is that you haven't done it before and it's hard to anticipate everything, and the second time, looking back, you can notice it, and So is it more you were unprepared, or was it more something specific was distracting you, or something made her more invisible to you?
I
More
think
about
I went
you,
in with the idea that I was there to see mom. So my very first question is, what can you tell me about mom? I set it up instead of saying to her, how is this going for you? You know,
Great.
this.
So that's huge. How you start, and
Yeah.
who's the focus? Is it the patient who's almost dead and not responsive, or is it the tough to care for family member? There are reasons to not see either one of those people, right? And it's that larger perspective. It's when you walk into these kind of situations, just being aware. Next time you see this, you will be aware. Oh, it's hard to see this patient, so I need to make sure I see the patient. And it's hard to be with this daughter, so let me make sure I'm with the daughter. And there might be other reasons. Patients or family are hard to be with, hard to see, hard to hear. And just taking that as a data point to be aware of, to hold on to, and to check back in. The process of learning what was going on. You said that some of the light bulb went on when you were writing it. That's also huge. The whole point of these verbatims, a huge part of it for me is you have one experience when you're with the people. You have another experience when you're writing the verbatim. We're now having a third experience because we're reading the verbatim. There are all these levels. There's learning at each level. How do we condense it quicker so that in the moment you can activate, right, the insight?
Yeah, is there a pill I can take so I can have
Well, I wonder if I'm just looking at the issues section at the beginning, and I'm wondering if even before where you say to the daughter, what can you tell me about your mom, if you had sort of mentally even set it up, that the visit was going to go a certain way. Because you assumed it was going to be easy because I was also Roman Catholic and been in many deathbeds before, so I wonder if...
Well, that was about the patient. I mean, I thought,
I just wonder if...
going in to a hospice patient, blah, blah, blah.
I just wonder if that mentality maybe put a certain lens on the visit.
Anytime you assume it'll be easy.
Yeah,
set yourself up. And
sometimes you set yourself up to misread something.
Okay, so how do we frame that in a way that, what's the positive way to walk into a visit?
I think with an open heart and mind. I mean, I think that could look different for everybody.
And then it's going to be unique.
Yeah.
Every time you walk into a room, it's a unique experience. There is no cookie cutter answers, you know. And I think what you said will stick with me. The fact that it's actually more difficult to be with your own, you know, because because of the background and what you bring with you. So it's almost easier to have that clean slate when you go into somebody, either you know nothing because no religion is listed, or it's, a religion that is not your own, and so they have to be the teacher. You're not coming in with any bias. And that will stick with me. I think that will help me to sort of reframe my own thinking before I walk into a room again.
Yeah, I mean, that reminds me of one of the things we talked about in IS. chaplains are different from other religious mono-faith. So like a Catholic priest who just serves Catholics, because we've got the larger lens of the whole human, not the parishioner or whatever. And it's harder to get out of that mono-faith lens when you're with people who are the same, because you can jump right into being the representative of Catholicism with the shoulds. And you're right? You want to do the funeral correctly, but chaplains have to think correct to who? Who's the ultimate decider, right? I mean, I thought your question, what can you tell me about your mom, was an awesome question.
Yeah, I like that too.
Because people often forget it's the patient. Who's the patient? And ultimately, the funeral should reflect her wishes. So what are those?
Mm-hmm.
And that was your other question. That was fantastic. It's harder than that though too, because knowing the answer to that question is not the daughter's problem. Right.
No, the daughter was obviously in pain and struggling, and I was not there for her.
But it sounds like she was really trying to hold it together, so she may not want to. Sometimes people are afraid to crumble.
True, but I still.
No, I know. You still try.
Yes, I did not give her an opportunity to sort of have that support, and rest in the comfort of someone who could handle it with her. And, I think that was part of when the next day I went by and they were cleaning the room, and I filled out, and I felt like, I said, goodbye, I missed an opportunity here. But,
That question that you said, what can you tell me about your mom? That can be taken many, many ways. If she had, I get the impression of reading all this that she wasn't that close to her mom. She could have told you about this memory when she was 5-year-old with her mom, about them going to the carnival. She could have pulled out, last Thanksgiving, a funny story her mom told. She could have pulled out anything from that. But she goes to her brothers. You know what I mean?
But I think she was trying to tell me that
she wasn't close?
no, that this had taken a toll.
Yeah.
That this long wait, one brother after 6 days had to go home to Dallas. The other brother was running out of his meds, had to send his wife home to check on their 18-year-old and send overnight his meds. They had to rent a car to do that. I think everybody was at their wits' end. And she,
But you said that. Sounds like it's been a long journey waiting for mom to die, and she still didn't offer anything, even though you waited and waited. I mean, maybe you could have done more for her, but I just keep getting the impression that she really, I don't know, I don't think she was ready to fall to pieces or.
And that could be true too.
Yeah, your questions do focus on the daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think your mom is waiting? That's also a good question. You don't follow up. She sort of answers. Last week she told us the train was coming and that she had her ticket, so she is ready.
Yeah, I love that.
And then you return to the daughter. How do you feel
Mm-hmm.
hearing that? And then she doesn't answer that.
Yeah, she kept avoiding.
So yeah, that's hard. Questions about how you feel are more direct. What would be a less
How did you react to that?
or how could you be with without asking as direct a question.
Well, I could use silence then.
Okay. What else?
Is that okay with you? Is that open enough?
Little
Or
bit.
just repeat. She has her
I was
ticket
gonna
ready.
say, I was,
Okay.
She has her
Great.
ticket ready.
Great.
Yeah.
because it's also, it is kind of cool, it's an interesting
Yeah.
metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
So
I-
repeating, like, take it ready
Yeah.
might have
Yeah.
generated something.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, that's why I said I kind of smiled,
Mm-hmm.
you know, at I could see the image of a train coming. I have my ticket, you know.
So silence, or repeating the words,
Mm-hmm.
or exploring the metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why a train?
Where is the train going? I don't, that might not be the best
Ooh.
question.
But that's
Ooh, that's an
see,
interesting
see how that's a
question.
little bit. So asking how do you feel about that can be it's kind of like a direct hit, and that can be too direct,
Mm-hmm.
especially if people are in pain.
Mhm.
If you want to kind of glance and keep the conversation going, right? That's when you want to. This is the art of going deep without going too quick.
Mhm.
Or following. You want to follow where the daughter needs to go, but also follow in the way that the daughter needs to get there.
Mhm.
And all that need is, it's not our, we're trying to figure it out, but it's there. We're trying to hear it from them, right? So it's that balance of directing and following.
Mm.
It's this, you never know. It's always different, and it's an art. It's not a science. When you use silence, so using all these tools and seeing which one can help move the is that helpful? Yeah. Also a huge, I mean, as you said, a huge dynamic in this is countertransference.
Mm.
Right? And the therapists, you could give us a lecture about that,
Mhm.
probably.
Mhm.
So, how is it different as a chaplain, maybe, than what kept you from noticing it and working with it the way you would have
Well, I
more
think,
easily as a therapist?
well, because it's a shorter time frame and it's
Yeah.
a much, you know, you're in and out. And it's only in the analysis piece that it hits, you know, when you're with somebody for 50 minutes on an ongoing basis, it's very different.
Totally different relationship.
Yeah. So, you know, if I had not done a verbatim, I might never have had that dawn on me. It may never have entered my conscious, you know, feeling. But in doing, you know, the verbatim, it came up, you know, definitely. So, you know,
You just gave me something. It's a lot harder to be a chaplain than to be a therapist. Hey, I'm going to run with that.
It is. On several levels. You know, as a therapist, you take an in-depth history. I used to teach how to do that. I mean, you know, mine were like, you know, 10 pages long. I mean, and I used to do a genealogram on everyone as a family, like a family tree. But you do it whatever your focus is. So, you know, mine was always looking for family addiction and abuse and issues like that. And so, and then you do, in that, you also do who's closest to who in the genealogram. So you say to the person, you know, who had the closest relationships? Well, dad and my sister, mom and my brother, you know.
Yeah.
That type of thing. So you go in after you've done this in-depth study, and sometimes it's 1 or 2 visits. You know all of this, okay? And then when you start, you ask the person, what is it that they want to work on? Why are they coming to therapy? Okay? So, you have all of that going in. As a chaplain, sometimes you have nothing, and sometimes you have a minute piece. You have a age, a gender, a diagnosis, maybe. So, so you go in blind, you go in cold, and you have a lot working against you. One, sometimes the room does not facilitate it because it's a 2-bedroom, room. Doesn't make for easy.
Sometimes they're in a hallway.
True, in the emergency department, yeah, I've had that.
Yeah.
You have family members, but you don't have any real information about the relationship. You don't know if this is their dutiful visit, one and only, or whether they're the loved
The
ones
ride.
who are coming all the time, et cetera, et cetera. You don't know what the family dynamics are. You have a short space of time, often interrupted by nurses, aides, the tray coming, all of that. Right in the middle, maybe right when you think you're getting something.
The doctor shows up.
Exactly. So there's a lot of differences. And yes, and it's funny you said that because I was out over the holidays with some of my old colleagues, and they said, so this has got to be easy for you, right? With all your years. And I'm like, you know what? It's just the opposite. The hardest thing I've ever done. I love it, but it is not easy. It is not a piece of cake like I thought maybe it would be. And it's a completely different learning curve. And they were like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And this is some of what we discussed. That, and plus, I specialized. So I only did family work or women with health issues.
Yeah.
So I had specialties. Here, we don't have specialties. I don't just see certain people, and, we see everybody and anybody, not even of our own choosing sometimes. We're like, Doreen, go see that hospice patient for me. I'm like, okay. So there's a lot of differences, and our job is a lot harder.
And I think one you didn't bring up, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I would think that desire is different. Like this, a person who's coming to a therapist generally, not always, but generally speaking, wants to be
discuss
there.
their issues.
This woman, she wasn't looking for you to show up. She wasn't looking to have a conversation
requested, right?
per se.
Yes, that's also another element. Absolutely. Yeah, the motivation is on my part.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the client's coming to you and paying big bucks, it's on there.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, seriously, it is.
Yeah. So, given all of that, going back to your experience as the daughter, how can you, looking back, how could you have used your experience, used yourself to help you rather than hinder you in this?
Had I had more time and had that realization while I was still with, or if I, could have had subsequent visits, I think I would have shared a bit of it. That, coming, every day and watching mom die in pieces. I did it once, never want to do it again.
What would that have communicated to this daughter?
That I could accept whatever it was that she was
Yeah.
good,
Wow.
Mhm. Mhm.
good for
The
bad,
anger,
ugly.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Definitely.
powerful.
Do you think, reflecting on this now, because it doesn't really say in here, and I'm starting to wonder, was she taking care of the mom before mom ended up here in hospice, do you think?
No,
it possible?
she said
Did
the
she
mom
live
was
in-
in it. I think
Assisted living.
Oh,
she was in
assisted
assisted
living.
living. Yeah, so they weren't. She wasn't
Oh,
at
okay.
home. So she was in an assisted
But she
living
still
place.
might be the one closest to her that visited her the more
Oh
than
yeah,
the-
obviously.
any of the
'cause
brothers.
She was local, and one brother was New Hampshire, and one was Dallas.
So she
yeah.
probably watched her decline too. So that
Yes.
it might have been,
Good point.
you know,
Very similar. Yeah.
because that's hard. Even if you're not the one doing all the
No.
caregiving,
No.
it's still hard to watch
Yes.
that daily, incremental slide. And you know that.
If we do nothing else, our role as chaplains is to communicate compassion. Nothing else matters as much. Obviously, if there's a suicide happening, there's the first responder kind of response. But as chaplains, being a presence that communicates compassion, care, and
Loving acceptance with no strings attached.
Mm.
in a huge way that you could have an asset of your past is that you've been there. And rather than judgment, it's you're on the same page. And you feel her pain. You felt her pain. Yeah, and that communicates. This is hard.
Yeah, when we should
So, self-disclosure is another way to get in. If you've got anything that reminds you, anything in the room that reminds you of your past, you can use that selectively and effective and pointedly, not to be the center of attention, which some of us love.
Yeah.
But to show that you're with them. Another way, when you, and I think it's connected to the countertransference, because it can be, there's some study also that if you've been through something, you're actually more judgmental of people who have gone through that than if you hadn't gone through that. Because you got through it, why can't they? Like there's a study that there's something in our psychology that, and with that in mind, as chaplains, we can tap into that and say, how can my similarity be an asset, not a hindrance? And only if we, flashing red lights, can be compassionate with ourselves. The reason you can be compassionate with this daughter is because you have been compassionate with yourself that wasn't so nice or resented your mother. You could still be working on that and beating yourself up, but you're not. So out of your own self-compassion, you can then connect with other people and give compassion. That's a huge part of countertransference. You got to do your own work before you can help other people do theirs. And that's also really hard in the moment. Go. You don't know who you're walking into. It's actually your mother who drives you crazy, right? Or whoever it is. No warning, but notice it in the moment. Access it. Decide how to use it. It's really hard.
In the moment.
Yeah. Before the doctor walks in. Go.
sometimes when I'm in a, when I know I've got other patients to see, but I know my shift is ending in 15 minutes, it's hard. It's like, well, do I go see one more patient? Or, because then you're walking into a room and you're like, well, can I stay an extra 15 minutes if I need to? You know what I mean? It's like, you hate having, it's hard.
I want to thank you, and I think I've mentioned this before, but I've had a lot of students who, one of the huge difficulties of CB, because it's self-directed, and because you only learn if you are open to seeing what you're doing wrong. It's pretty common to have students who don't think they're doing anything wrong, so they go through it and nothing really happens. And that's the most frustrating experience for me. I'm here to teach you. So I want to thank you just for being so open. You do come with all this experience, which could be, oh yeah, I've done this. You have more reason than most people to be that student, and yet you're especially open and eager, and you can put it into words. And I think that's great for everybody else too, because it gets us all off the hook. It keeps us on the hook of there's something here that we're not doing just right. And it's great for me, much easier to work with than trying to show you what could be better. And I think you err on the side, maybe like Liz, of being hard on yourself. So my task is more trust your instincts, trust yourself. That's where you're going to get the most mileage, because it's in there. You just have to. That's why we're here. As you practice, you're going to get better. You don't have to do it perfectly on the first time. I think part of the reason you didn't do as well is because you just haven't been doing this very long. And it takes time to experience the spectrum of possibility. There's so many variations.
Well, we just started in November.
Yeah.
So this is still November.
I know.
It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Seems a gazillion years ago.
It does.
Well, I appreciate that we're a small group and that I feel very supported. So otherwise this would be very difficult. So, but I feel very supported, so I like that. It is that learning piece, and it's, but, I want to learn, so I'm willing to put it out there, as long as it's gentle in its turnaround, but you guys are all gentle, so that's good. Nobody, it's like, oh my God, you did what? Because that would be like,
I would feel the same way.
yeah, I don't do well in that kind of a situation where somebody is like, oh my God, what were you thinking? Like, obviously, I wasn't thinking what you're thinking. So I do appreciate it. But I do want to know one thing, okay? Did you read my prayer? I thought I did great.
I thought you did too. I was gonna say that actually.
I
thought it was
Nobody's
a pretty good prayer too.
I was gonna write that.
I
thought you did.
impressed that out of all of this,
I
at
did-
least
I
I
did
got the
think- I
oral
did think
prayer.
that.
I did too as I was reading it as the chaplain. I'm like, man, she had that. I think you did great by the patient, by the way.
So,
You did great, Bucky.
had that been the person that was supposed to be graded, it would have been fine.
Well, after Gina read the prayer, I remembered your previous verbatim where you had we talked a lot about
Right.
like extemporaneous prayer and
Yeah.
comfort with that.
Right, because
And I thought, well,
we
this
don't do
one
that.
was
That's
this was
what
good.
I thought. And I was
All the
writing it down,
pieces that
remembering,
I
I thought,
think should be in a prayer.
actually sounded fairly decent.
So in all of
hey,
this, the
check that off. I got that part
You got
now.
the prayer.
the fiery Doreen gets the last word.
We found her.
I liked it.
Good comeback.
Awesome. So do we want to do lunch now, or do we want to do?
What time is it?
It's noon.
12:05.
Mm.
I'm actually hungry. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah, let's do it.
If you're okay with that.
So your lunch, I asked.
Yes.
And you're at the end of the day.
I am.
Okay. I believe my phone call is going to happen now.
Oh.
I'm not sure, but let's grab lunch. I think I'll bring mine back here.
Okay, do you want me to come back up here, or do you want me to give you like 20 minutes and then come back up here?
Why don't you? Yeah, give me 20 minutes. If I text you, will you get it? I guess. It depends on
I
my
have to
phone.
turn my phone on, but but if it's charged, yes.
If it's not charged, you can text one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Or I could just bring my iPad.
Yeah, and then the other piece is my phone might not even text.
Yes,
There you go.
my phone is great today. So
Oh, good.
I can call
I
you
would
too.
yeah, I'll receive a call.
I know this phone works.
Yeah, if you
Okay.
call or text me, I will get it.
There you go.
Because I think there's service in it.
The cat? I think so.
I think so too.
I think there is too.
I think Laura got a call one night when we were down
Okay. Yeah, I think I actually have service in this room right now. So
Oh.
there. You all set?
Yeah.
Rub it in.
Wonders never cease, huh?
no, I never have service
You
anywhere. So
keep
this
yours?
is a miracle.
Yeah, so I'll keep mine.
I'm surprised. I actually do have service in this hospital. I can't believe it. I mean, sometimes I get lucky.
I have one little bar. Bring my coat because sometimes there's a weird draft.
I know. I'm bringing my sweater for that reason. There is usually
Yeah,
a
but
draft on there.
The door to the outside swing open and then.
And there's also an air vent in certain
Yes,
parts.
yes,
That
yes,
can be really.
yes.
So I'll be back in about 20 minutes.
I'm gonna
Okay.
bring my
Oh, what time do you want us to come back then?
Yeah, come back at 1.
At 1?